initial story is fantastic, but then you became this amazing, focused, study on the caves, which you haven't stopped since then.
Yeah. Well, I did stop for a while. I mean, I went through a sort of bleak period in terms of caves. It was rich in some ways. I got a job after I did my dissertation. First, I spent 18 months in the Army. I was drafted after my PhD. They didn't know what to do with me. I think I was by then 20, I don't know, oldest person in our company, which was a medical company, which I decided if I was going to go in the Army, I wanted to help people. I thought, fixing wounds or something would be good. But of course, I ended up in what they call a field hospital, so that, Company B would attack at 3 in the morning, and we'd have to go out and put up a huge tents, bring in all the X-ray equipment, all the operating. This was in the Korean War, and then the bodies would start coming in. People from Company B who our men had killed. And so we'd have a constant stream of wounded or dead, which was a problem too. And it was all fake, of course. I mean, it was play war. And I guess I shouldn't say it was a waste of time, but for me it was rather a waste of time, and I think maybe for the country it was too. I don't know I never did find out what that war was really about. Anyway, we went through it, and then I got a job, a wonderful new school, which ate me up really. I mean, a new school where there was so much to do, at Brandeis University in Waltham, Mass. Jewish school. It was a kind of Jewish answer to Harvard. That's the way they wanted it to be, you see. I mean, and a lot of money came in to help make this wonderful Jewish contribution to higher education. And it was really a fantastic growing place. Just in those days when there was money, I guess, people could give to do that kind of thing. And so and I was made curator of the art collection, which you may know in the newspapers recently, the great furor about the fact that the Brandeis wanted to sell the pictures that had been given, which is a no-no in our field, really. I mean, if I give a Picasso, if I had one, but if I give a Picasso, I don't want it sold. I give it to be displayed. And so there was this huge furor, and I think now they've decided that they will keep the museum. It all came from, I guess the whole problem came from the wonderful investments they'd made, which were rising constantly under Madoff, the man that ruined so many lives, and he nearly ruined that museum. Anyway, that was Brandeis was a wonderful experience, but I couldn't work on caves. I mean, I was learning to teach.
Were you still, when you were working in that other environment, were you still dreaming and thinking and having a visionary idea that the caves were something that you were going to go back to?
I was certainly interested, but I wouldn't say that. I mean, I didn't have enough of a sense of focus. What I was really going to do with these caves. I'd done it with these early caves, and actually, I thought, and a lot of people thought that I had sort of put these things all in place. Now I think it's clear that there's a lot more work to be done on those things. But it's just I had gone to India. It must be in around the early '60s, and it's kind of interesting, I guess, what happened. I mean, I had going around almost as a tourist. I mean, many people that get these grants are half tourists and half scholars, and I was kind of a half tourist. And I had been to the wonderful caves at Elephanta, where the greatest sculpture in India may be at Elephanta Caves, a Shaivite worship of Shiva monument on an island off Bombay. So I had been there and kind of absorbed the look of it all, you see. And then we continued to the south, and I guess I was alone then. I continued to the south to photograph caves at Badami, which is a site well south of Bombay and well south of Goa, Chalukyan, the ancient Chalukyan dynasty site. There's one cave at Badami, which is an extremely beautiful cave. It's unique in a sense because it has an inscription of the king of the emperor Pulakeshin, dated a Chalukyan emperor, dated 578 A.D. So in this whole field of 5th century monuments, 6th century monuments, 7th century monuments, the dated inscriptions are very rare. They're dated according to the year of the king's reign or something, but you don't know when that really is. So here there was a landmark, 578 A.D., and I saw this marvelous monument, and as I looked at it more and more, I realized how can this be? How can this be 578 when Elephanta is dated traditionally in the 8th century, when I could just feel that Elephanta was earlier than Badami. And so I decided Elephanta had to be a 6th century monument. I mean, you know, this is like suddenly realizing that Picasso actually was working in the 19th century. I mean, it goes against what everyone knew.
So this is where you started realizing that you could start using your scientific skills also, or your knowledge of science, where you could start debating some of the
well, my approach is very picky. I mean, it is scientific in a way. I've used the caves as laboratories, and I look at everything, and I keep messy records. But out of chaos, you know, if the chaos is rich enough, order does come, and what led me from there to Ajanta is that if Elephanta is 8th century, everyone agrees, which is a dangerous thing to posit, but it happens to be true, that Ajanta, which in the Zimmer book that I worked for Joseph Campbell, I dated Ajanta Cave 1, beautiful bodhisattvas that you know, I'm sure. In Cave 1, I dated them 742 AD. I have not the slightest, I mean, some Frenchman had made it seem clear to me and to everyone else that 742 AD was a proper date. It makes no sense to me now, and I don't know that it really made sense then. But I was doing what everyone did. Everyone dated Elephanta 8th century because other people had dated it. I mean, someone must have had a reason. Actually, the reason for dating Elephanta is quite interesting. The reason is at Ajanta. There's a famous painting at Ajanta in Cave 1 that shows a king with a whole host of people coming. It's an audience scene. People are coming, and among the people coming are obviously Sasanians or Persian types. You can tell from their headdress and their boots and everything. So they've come down the trade routes here. There are many Sasanians in the different paintings at Ajanta. But someone, a Britisher, in 1899, talking to the Asiatic Society in Bombay, said, possibly this audience scene with the Sasanians in it represents what we know was a Persian embassy to the court of Pulakeshin, actually, to one of the Pulakeshins, the Chalukyan king of South India. in about 625. We know that date, 625. They said, and so he said this may be what he called it, the Persian embassy. And if so, by the time it got into the cave, the Persian embassy the representation would be mid-7th century. So this is how Ajanta, finally, people thought, oh, had never been dated, like Elephanta hadn't been dated. Elephanta, there was an inscription, probably with the name of the king and maybe the date, over the great cave, but the Portuguese couldn't read it, so they put it on a boat, this is the tradition anyway, I think it's true, and took it to Portugal. I even got a grant to lovely Portugal to find the inscription. I didn't find it, but I had lots of squid and octopus and wonderful things. And sometimes that happens with grants.
How do you go to a country to find an inscription?
I went all to the old courtly houses and things where, I mean, I had some reason to go to certain places to look in the gardens to see if the inscription in Sintra in Portugal.
But now you're on the trail of kind of, you're almost like a private eye now in these caves.
Yeah.
Zeroing in on making the truth, at least when they were built, more realistic.
Because the problem with this Persian embassy scene of the mid-7th century, people started asking, why would you have a Persian embassy to a Chalukyan king of South India shown in a Buddhist cave? It made no sense, and so people gradually said this doesn't make sense. But by then they had used the dating of the Persian embassy to justify the dating of Elephanta to the 8th century. And then people had written books with Elephanta, 8th century articles had been written. And so they said, well, this Persian embassy scene isn't really a Persian embassy, but it probably is 7th century because Elephanta's 8th century. So in other words, there was a wonderful circular argument going around. But so my job was to, since I knew Elephanta was 8th, even the archaeological survey now uses my date of 6th century for Elephanta, but they're still fighting about Ajanta. I mean, you can even see 7th century dates on some of the things outside of the caves. This is a 7th century cave. I mean, it's perfectly absurd. But I'll tell you what happened next, I guess.